Gentlemen, I think I'm good to go now. All right. Thank you. Okay, good evening and welcome to a special edition of the Irie Myrie and Friends show. I am your host, Colin Irie Myrie, and fortunately, my co-host Ralston Chamberlain is not here with me this evening. On Sunday, we touched a little on the issue of football in Jamaica, the JFF and Leon Bailey. This evening, we want to see if we can help you to get a better understanding of the issues and, as usual, educate you, our listeners, so that you too can come to an informed decision. Just to give you the backstory, often being named as part of the Reggae Boys Jamaica Copa team, footballer Leon Bailey has withdrawn, stating that he is not available. Craig Butler, the manager of Leon Bailey and the JFF, have been at odds with claims and counterclaims, with Butler saying the JFF is being less than honest. To discuss this evening, we are joined by Mr. Wayne Walker, sports journalist. This person is here as yet. Mr. Phil Holmes, sports executive order and social media blogger, and Dennis Chung, General Secretary of JFF, the man with all the answers. Welcome all. We look forward to a candid and informative show. Please join us on the following platforms: Facebook, YouTube at Irie Myrie, and Twitter, formerly known as X. We would also appreciate you sharing it with your friends as well. Thanks for your support. We wish to note that the views expressed by our guests are their views and not necessarily those of the Irie Myrie and Friends show. Before I bring in Dennis Chung, the General Secretary of the JFF, I want to get first each of your response to the seemingly back and forth between JFF and Leon Bailey, along with his manager. Let me start with you, Mr. Wayne Walker.
Thanks for having me, Colin. Thanks, and good evening to the other guests on the show. So you said seemingly back and forth. No, it's not seeming. It's apparent, and it's very, very clean for all to see. But I suppose the most pivotal part of your preamble was that Leon told them that he's not available. Yeah. How did then the JFF name Leon Bailey in a 26-man squad for the Copa America after he went public? I thought he was disrespectful to have gone on a podcast, make announcements with a coach, the president or the gentleman. Go to them, call them and say, gentlemen, here's the situation. I feel like at the end of the season, I'm not getting enough rest. Whatever the situation is, but go to them. Don't go to a podcast. And because he did that, and I thought it was disrespectful, I just don't think the JFF should have gone to him any at all, because they make themselves look stupid by so doing. And we're seeing this dance all over again, yeah? Once Leon and Craig are around and have interest in the national program, we're going to have this. And I'm telling you, it's not the last of it. The federation doesn't learn. How can one organization be burned so many times by the same one or two persons? The problem is not the one or two persons. The problem is the people who get burned all the time. And however it was done or whichever way they did it, I think the JFF was wrong to try to include Leon in the squad after he went about announcing what he did in the way he did. There's no way. The only time that boy comes back into the squad is if he calls the federation and first apologize. I really should have come to you guys. I really shouldn't have gone in a contract because you're my bosses in a national team. So for that, I apologize. I'm ready to come back. I think I'm in a better mental state. And let then Dennis, the Ricketts and the coach then sit and decide how they sort of get him back in. You should be running behind any player. Take Leon out of it. Any player for that matter. And I think the JFF was wrong, and I think they put themselves in a position to be disrespected and insulted by Craig, and he took the opportunity. He was never going to pass up on that one.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Phil.
So I want to say greetings to my fellow participants. I want to introduce myself, though, as one of the few Jamaicans who can say they have seen Jamaica played an international game on Monday morning in Jamaica. Right? One of the few. I don't think a lot of people can say that. Now, I listen to Wayne and I agree with the sentence. I was a bit surprised and taken back when I saw Leon's name on the list. I wasn't sure that list was put out by the JFF. And if the JFF did that, put that list out, I think they were wrong. Because having gone through what they were going through before and said he was going to play again, the national team is something that one has to aspire for, or aspire to. So he needs to come climbing back and say, look, I'm ready to play and I want to play. So there must have been some discussion between the party before his name was added to a list. And if they did that without any consultation, then they would have gone down the wrong road. And that's my early take on it.
Okay, Mr. Chung, you are up next. So just help us understand, from the JFF, what took place and what has caused this breakdown.
Yeah, well, from my point of view, when Craig came to me, I said to you about Leon, because I was trying to just resolve some personal issues with him. And he spoke to me about Leon. I said, listen, I do not want to talk about this because it is not, I don't get involved in the selection of teams. Now, when it said that Leon needs to come back to the JFF, at that point in time, the coach made a suspension for a game, and there was nothing that was done for him to come back to us as an administration, or rather, if the coach had a discussion with him and the coach wanted to select him, because we do not, certainly the president and myself and Speed, do not get involved in this round who is going to be included in the national team. If we were to do that, then the next thing you would hear is that we are interfering in selection. So I don't know what the discussion was with Craig and the coach. I don't know what happened. What I know is that the coach indicated that he would have come for the second and third game. That was the coach's decision to make, right? And it wasn't the decision for us to make as an administration. It's unfortunate, the response that came, because from my perspective, right? When I look at it, if Butler and Leon were really interested in JFF, would not have been done that way, right? The decent thing to do, I think, was to call the coach and say, Coach, boy, this thing shouldn't have come out like this, right? To make a public spectacle of it, I don't think it was the right thing. I mean, we were just having a conversation about decency, and decency for me is very important. And I don't think that I wouldn't have done it that way. Certainly, but not all of us have that same level of values. So I was very disappointed by that. But I don't disbelieve the coach. I mean, for him to specifically say that he would come for the second and third game, then that must have been a conversation that was had, to be as specific as that. One could always talk about 2020 hindsight. I don't know if he had 2020 looking at it, he would make another decision. But remember this, he did indicate that Leon is not in the 23-man squad. He was actually listed as a 26 of 26 men, right? Even after the injured Andre Blake and after the injured Amari Bell, to say, okay, I'm going to list him just in case he comes, right? So I don't fault the coach for it. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with him having that discussion. People have differences all the while, and I think we should encourage persons to talk about their differences and try and resolve this thing that, the media is always trying to put one against the other. Come on, man. Is that the way that we want to portray football? is that the way that we want to portray anything? The coach, I think, did an honest and effort, to deal with the matter. As to the discussion that he had, I haven't even asked him what the discussion was that he had, and it's unfortunate it happened like that. Outside, and the fact that it happened like that, fine, it created a little, I don't call it a 9-day wonder, a 1 or 2-day wonder. And, as the coach said, hey, this thing has happened. We need to focus on the people who want to put on the national colors, because obviously not everybody wants to put on the national colors. So let's focus on that. I'm not getting into this thing about what Craig say and what coach say and all of those things. For me, the important thing is we have a game on Saturday, right? We have 23 men who are willing to go out there and put on the colors for Jamaica and perform for us. And that's where my focus is. As far as I'm concerned, I've totally forgotten about this incident with Butler and Bailey. That is in the past. We deal with that again. The administration has a stance now that obviously the place where it is reached now, we have to be involved. But prior to that, we didn't have to.
Okay, Mr. Chung, I know you said that we have to move on and think, but I just would like to ask again, like Mr. Butler, he said that they did not commit for Leon Bailey to be included in the squad, right? So I want to know, how did the JFF get it so wrong?
Well, as I told you, that was a discussion he had with the coach. So if he committed or not, that's a conversation he had with the coach. I do not, as I said, I do not doubt the interpretation by the coach that he'll be there for the second and third game, because you don't have a 2-hour conversation and as it was reported to me, and come away with a view that, oh, you'll be here for the second and third. If it was something that you weren't sure of, you might just say, oh, he'll be here. But to say, oh, he's going to fly in for the second and third because he has a party to go to before, that will conflict with the first one. That's a specific conversation, and that's the sort of common sense way that we need to look at it in terms of determining, what was said. But outside of that, I didn't ask what else was said in that conversation, because for me, as I said to Craig when I spoke with him the Monday evening, when he asked me about some other issues about this under-20 boy, I said, listen, it's neither here nor there for me whether he wants to play. For me, it didn't matter, right? I said, if you have a challenge, you go talk to the coach. But for me, from my perspective, it was neither here nor there for me. And I told him that. So I said to him, boy, he either plays or don't play. As simple as that. But don't come to me about some other issues. And that was it for me. That was the end of it for me.
Thank you very much. Wayne?
Yes, I'm here.
You have anything to say on that?
Yeah. So 2 or 3 things that Dennis said. He said we're just talking about values and morals and ethics. Don't just say it. Preach it. Don't just preach it. Act on it. Show it. Don't just say it. We can all say anything. Here is a player who didn't think anything of the federation. We know he doesn't rate the JFF. There's no question about it. Yeah? Him and his handlers. We know that. Dennis knows. Michael knows. And everybody in the federation knows that. Here is a player who didn't have the decency to come and tell you guys that he's not available. You have to hear it. And then you turn around now and follow this person, literally begging this person to come into the national team. And we're talking about values, and you should respect yourself, the federation, enough to not even entertain a conversation 2 days before a team is named. To begin with, you don't know what condition the boy is in. He finished playing the English Premier League, all over the place. You don't know. Yet you're running down this boy. So if we're talking about values, show it. Don't just say it. Dennis says he doesn't see anything wrong with what the coach did. The coach did everything wrong. Everything wrong. First of all, this thing about naming the 26th player and not in the 23, just in case he doesn't come. it means the coach had doubt whether Leon is going to come or not. To begin with, if you have doubt, if a player cannot convince you enough for you to put it out there, going to be here, he doesn't deserve to be there. So we're catching him on for 26 in games. It's absolute rubbish, utter garbage. And then here is a coach reaching out to Craig. Craig is not Leon. Leon was the one who went publicly without even considering it from the federation to tell you that he will not play. Him having him party on June 21. A matter of fact, he was in party. So when I go play hope, I have my party to go. You can't want it any better than that. And he wasn't talking to the federation. He was talking to his friend on a podcast and hope the federation here. Is them here? For them business. I'm talking about values. Come on. So to begin with, the coach should not have reached out to Craig for no reason at all. Leon shouldn't even be uppermost in their mind. 2 days away from selecting your Copa America team for you to be having a conversation with Craig about Leon's availability. And the last thing I'll say on this is this where we reach in Jamaica now, where a player can be excused, not because his mom is in the hospital, his wife is having a baby. We reach a stage where a player who vexed because he was suspended rightfully by the coach, now having to set his parameters to come back and suspend the player, setting the parameters for his return. And I'm saying to you, if the coach sign off on Leon Bailey keeping a party and joining the court, what is to stop Mikel Antonio, them are great, they say them are put on a busier, them friend of a party on a Dubai coach, never miss the car, one got a party. How does he tell them no? You have to set standards, Dennis. The same standard that you're talking about. Set the standards, uncompromising standards, so everybody's on the same page, whether they are 20 million in pocket or look a boy, Kaim this for $5. Set the standards. The federation mishandled this one, and I'm happy that they've been embarrassed again because they allow it to happen to them too often, and it will again. Trust me on that one.
Dennis?
You know, I don't disagree with Wayne. And as I said, if it was my position, right, then I would have maybe looked at things differently. I mean, but it is, I don't know what the conversation was between the coach and Butler, and I don't know if he spoke with Leon also, right? But as I said, you know, we can't make that decision. I mean, there are, for someone to be called up and not make themselves available, and they're not sick or anything, there are FIFA sanctions. Don't mistake that. There are sanctions, right? And for someone to deal with the matter that way, I mean, obviously there are sanctions, but you know, we have to know when to step in, right? And all I'm saying is, I'm not going to disagree with that, but I don't know what the conversation was. And that's it, that's the thing, you know. We do not know what was the conversation that happened. So I can't judge that. I'm not going to judge a non-entity. What I know are the facts, right? And the fact is that I know that the court said something to me specifically. So I don't know what the conversation is that came out of that, right? And you know, it's unfortunate that it happened like that. You know, I'm someone who believes that, you know, if it falls with us now, you know, then, you know, obviously there are some other things that might need to happen, you know. But you know, it's unfortunate. I agree with Wayne. It's unfortunate it happened like that. And you know, there was some good that came out of it, you know, in terms of, you know, putting a certain perspective on certain things, and I won't go any further into that, right? But you know, as I said, our focus now is on the 23 who want to don the national colors. Unfortunate that's turned out like that, you know. It's unfortunate that someone would choose to go that route in terms of dealing with a coach that had a conversation with them privately, that I think is unfortunate too, and it tells you about certain things, but for me is Copa on Saturday, and I agree, should be treated differently from any other player. And that is why when they came to me with this thing about business class and security, I told them, no, that's not going to happen because I'm not going to treat any player different. So the thing that I had control over, which was or security, I was very, very clear on that. No way, because that was brought up to me in this meeting. And I said, listen, I'm not even going to discuss that. Because that is not what I'm here to discuss, right? And there's no way anybody's going to be treated differently from anybody else. And that is the position that I hold, But we'll move on from here. I mean, what this has done is show you the character, right? And you just have to move on from that.
Okay, thank you very much, Phil.
I want to throw a question to both Wayne and Dennis. What percentage of this debacle would you put squarely at the feet of Bullet? We all know Bullet and wanting to prove himself at all times. How much of this you think is Bailey, and how much of this you think is Bullet?
How much is who? How much is Bullet and how much is who?
Bailey.
None.
Bailey is none.
No, and none for Butler either. 100% of the feet of the JFF. If the JFF didn't call them, we would not have it.
So you don't think Craig, so but they made demands, right?
Well, I'm saying to you, if Dennis didn't call Craig, and if the coach didn't call Craig, no contestations would have taken place. The 23 man squad would have been picked, and they would have gone. And because not one and two, Leon already told you, is unavailable for the foreseeable future. He said that the only way you pick him is when he comes back now to say I'm available again. Craig and Leon don't have any bearing to do with this. I see the woman there, I only come call me, kept on again. As I thought that scenario.
I hear you. Dennis, you agree to that?
No, but I don't want to get into that. As far as I'm concerned, the argument that we make a while ago is rubbish, right? The truth is that, you can't, as I said, hindsight is 2020. And, it's very easy for someone to say after something happens, boy, this should have happened or this shouldn't happen. There are some people, as I said to someone the other day, who do things, and there are other people who criticize things, and when you do things, it's a different thing. So I don't want to get into that. I really not concerned about, who is to blame for what or whatever. I know that at the conversation I had about Billy, and I shut that down in that meeting and said, listen, I'm not having this discussion, right? And I don't blame, I am not going to put any blame on the coach to call him. I'm not going to put any blame on the coach. Do you promote the disunity in that way? And I know Wayne in the media love them thing, right? But why promote that? The man called, the man said, boy, listen, I don't know what the conversation was. He came out and said he's coming for the second and third game, and then he said he's not available. So, we'll move on from there. As far as I'm concerned, the bigger picture is that there are 23 boys who want to put on the national colors and represent Jamaica. And there are some good points that came out of this discourse that which I'm grateful for also. But it tells us, a position of where we are with certain things. But I'm not going to say Craig is how much percent and Bailey is how much percent and JFF is how much percent. That's of no import to me, to be honest with you. What I look at is what comes out of it, and therefore what action needs to happen. But no blame game with anything.
Gotcha. So what are the lessons learned going forward in case something like this happens with a different player? I am hoping that the JFF would have says, okay, this is what we will do going forward.
We will have that discussion internally. And remember the situation that happened with the girls the other day, right? And we took a decision, right? Remember when it came to the end of Lon's contract, we took a decision as an administration, because that was in our purview, that we're not going to renew the contract, right? Because that came up for us. Prior to that, it wasn't in our purview, but we took the decision that we're not going to renew the contract. We also stated in October that we know that everyone has gotten paid from October, right? Everybody run with it. Oh no, JFF never paid them and things. And then in February, their own representative came out and said, yes, they got paid in October. So I don't want, I know we might go through some media circus again, but I don't get involved in that, because what I deal with is facts, right? And what I deal with is things that we can control, right? So we will always have these issues coming up. I have 13 teams that we're managing. We have the under 20, right? Boys. We have the under 15 we're dealing with now, right? We're just saying under 14 to Cayman, right? We have the senior team, the women's team that's come from Brazil. These things will happen. We had an incident earlier with the girls, and what we have to do is always just stick to the facts, right? And take learnings from it. We have different personalities that we're dealing with. We're not dealing with an item that comes out, one item, and dealing with that. We're dealing with multiple different personalities that we need to deal with. And what we need to do is ensure that we don't seem uneven with deal with players. We have to deal with them that's important, because I think that's what we'll do. Once the policy comes up, we'll deal with it, and we discuss what we need to do with certain things. And right now our focus is on the 23 boys, and moving forward with that.
On all that you would have.
Can I say something, Wayne?
No, I was listening to Dennis. I've not been brought back in.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go back a little, because all of you on the panel are sports enthusiasts and want to see the Jamaican team on top. Is there ego playing out here? Where one person is putting self above country? Phil, can help us with this.
Footballers or sports people, men and women, are generally egotistical. Generally, they want to be the best at whatever they're doing. That's normal to me. I mean, there's no major issue, as long as your ego doesn't take over the goals unit team. Because as them say, there's no I in E. But when you go on the pitch, you have to perform as a unit, but individually you have to perform as one. So ego does come into play somewhat, but I don't know if it's all negative.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wayne?
Yes. Question?
I said, all of us are enthusiasts, and want to see the Jamaican team on top. Is there ego playing out where one person is putting self above country?
I'm not sure if somebody's putting self above country. And nothing is wrong with ego. All human beings have ego. It's about how you channel it. We all have ego, because we're competitive and driven beasts. It's how you channel it. And so it's fine to have ego. It's fine to be boastful when you're sure it's a little different. So nothing is wrong with that. But I don't think it's putting country, self above country. I think one common denominator in all of, I suppose I could say two, because you don't find one without the other. I was going to say Craig, but then he uses Leon to drive his point. You know, there's an elephant in the room here that we're not touching. Dennis vaguely brushed on it just now. Took advantage of the opportunity to come in the room. Dennis Chung and the coach left the door ajar. You don't do that with Craig. Craig's going to kick it down. And what Craig has used this opportunity to do is to use Leon to fight on under 20 players battle. And if you don't honor the 5 points that Craig put forward and honor just one, if the only one you honor is to work on that under 20 by removing Rudolph's team as head of the technical director, there's a clear conflict of interest. Rudolph staying north, it's a conflict of interest. Yeah? But it is what it is. Speed is not just the technical head. Speed is a key Ricketts man who helped Ricketts to win the election. So Speed will not, so even if they see the conflict, I'm not sure they're going to do anything about it or they want to do anything about it. It's politics, it's what it is. So the question about the conflict of interest, it's there with Rudolph being the head of the technical committee where he hires and fires coaches and determine a lot of other stuff. Does he intervene or interfere personally? I know him. I think he's an honorable man, and I don't think he does that. Just like I think Dennis is an honorable man. Dennis and I can disagree on a lot of stuff, but I think Dennis Chung is an honorable man, which is why it hurt me when I hear of all persons Craig calling Dennis a liar. That hurt me. Good. I'm saying to you, what Craig wants is for Rudolph to move. Because I don't know if you guys understand the backstory to this under 20 player. There's a player who used to play for Cavalier. And whilst he was playing for Cavalier, he was a national under 20 regular. The moment he decides to move from Cavalier and go to Phoenix, where Craig is, he no longer makes the national team. Is something suspicious again about that? Of course, it's reasonable to assume. But the player could have lost form as well because he moved from one place to another. Anything is possible. Craig don't want to entertain that anything is possible. He just thinks it one way. He thinks Rudolph is fighting against him because he wants to sell players to make money. And in order to sell them to make money, put them out here, give them the opportunity to receive, and so on and so forth and so forth. So Craig's biggest issue is not Leon and the national team. I tell you that. He's using Leon to fight this battle for him. But you see that under 20 thing that he spoke about, it is central to his derangement.
Okay, another quick question for you.
Can I come in here? Can I get a question here?
Go ahead, Phil.
So we understand that play for Cavaliers. Cavaliers plays in a right?
Wait, the Cavaliers do what?
Play in a club competition.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure they have a youth level structure. What competition does Phoenix play?
Phoenix doesn't need to play in a competition, and that's the point. Leon was available for the Manning Cup, and Craig thought that playing in the Manning Cup would not help him. What he did instead was to take him into Europe. Dujan Richards, he came and he started KC in the Manning Cup season 2 seasons ago. But people were just knowing that Dujan wasn't living in England. He was in an academy in England. Craig is an academy-style coach, and he gets his results. You can't kill him. He gets his results. Leon Bailey is Jamaica's most bankable football star. Is he our best player? No, not when playing for the national team, but he's our most bankable. Dujan Richards, if he continues on the trajectory, he's going to be a huge star in Chelsea. So Craig doesn't want to play in league. What Craig wants to do is to have an academy and then take them into Europe, which I think is a better way than what Steve does. If how many of the players that Steve sent away playing the same club league you're talking about, and in 2 weeks they come back into Jamaica. Craig doesn't have that. So he thinks his method is better. So the question of them playing it for Cavalier as opposed to not playing for Phoenix, Craig will point out all of what he just did and show you how it has made him a literal millionaire.
Gotcha.
Okay, all right. Mr. Owen Speed has joined us. Yeah, Mr. Owen Speed is a former president and a sports enthusiast also. So, Mr. Speed, I'm turning you in the hot seat as I've asked the gentleman earlier. You know, you are a sports enthusiast and you want to see the Jamaican team on top. Is there ego playing out where one person is putting himself above country? help us with that, Mr. Speed. I'm putting in the hot seat as you're coming.
Well, good evening, gentlemen. I don't have a lot of charge on this phone. I'm in a little sticky position here, you know. But a lot of ego is in the mix, of course. I don't think we can escape that. I would think that in terms of the national program, I don't know where the program started and where it's going and so on, but in terms of the national setup and whether or not Bailey, Butler, whether they are willing to don the colors of the Jamaican reggae boy setup. I'm not too sure what is happening where that is concerned, but we are seeing some ego is at play. I mean, some personal issues. I mean, Craig has come with quite a number of issues that I consider side issues. And not related specifically to the whole thing of the demands that were made. Clearly saying that there are not really demands and the word is changed around. But as far as I'm concerned, if some questions were asked, some requests were made, and those requests were not granted, and you chose not to play, it means that you really have turned it into demands. So,
Go ahead.
you know, so that's my take on it.
Okay, I must ask you because I hear Mr. Walker talking about a speeder, and I know it's not you. And Cavalier, you know.
Yeah, this is Owen Speed.
Yeah. So you was saying something about Butler and Speed, you know, where this guy under 20, you know, maybe he could have fell out of farm. Do you know anything about, you know, that you would want to share with us, you know? Are you related to that?
No, I don't know all the details about that. So I don't like to comment on the things that I don't really have all the details on. So I'd prefer to bypass that. But if Wayne knows some of those, Mr. Walker, if you know some of those things and the specifics around that, I think Mr. Speed, the Cavalier coach, would be the better person to explain what went on there. And maybe Mr. Myrie, you could get the Cavalier coach onto the program at some point in time. Maybe not tonight, but at another time. But I don't want to be commenting on things that I don't know the facts about.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I just think though, during the first and thrust of the conversation, for full disclosure, Owen should tell you that he's Rudolph's brother.
Yes.
That wasn't said. And I think if we're in a conversation like this, with Speed, one of the central players in all of it, that disclosure should have been made.
Yeah, I'm his blood brother, full brother, mother and father. Never hide that. I wish them happy Father's Day on Sunday. The entire family, all of my brothers, I wish them happy. It was on my page. Happy Father's Day to them.
Okay, I'm gonna move on. As I heard Mr. Walker say something about, you know, Craig and calling Mr. Chung a liar. You know, so Mr. Chung, you know, words like disingenuous were used by Craig Butler, you know, and to describe the situation, and the JFF went ahead and have a press conference without confirmation from him. How could this have happened, you know? I mean, you talk a little on it, but could you just...
Well, you know, I can't tell the words that people use, you know, and all I do is stick to the facts. You know, if someone wants to disbelieve me, then, you know, I mean, so be it. You know, it wouldn't be the first person. But I always stick to the facts. You know, in terms of a press conference, really was because the press conference was planned. The only difference, or the only thing that caused an issue, was the fact that you know, Bailey's name was included in the 26, you know, and that's what the coach wanted to include him. So, you know, if someone wants to say I'm a liar or the president's a liar, then, it is one thing for people to say something, but they should prove it. But I can't help that. That's his view. I mean, I'll tell you something. The views that Wayne expressed a while ago, I agree with them. I think Wayne was spot on his analysis of the issues. And the fact that I also believe that everyone has egos. And ego is a good thing for sports people because it makes them feel like they can perform better than everybody. It is for coaches to manage egos on the field, But I really can't comment on what somebody said about what I say. I just know that I just speak the facts.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to Wayne, because I understand that Mr. Speed, he has been under, I think, Cranston Boxdale, he has worked with them, he has worked with former President, may his soul rest in peace, Horace.
All three.
Bird and so forth, Captain Horace Bird, To my understanding, wasn't doing that well in those times. I know that he takes up Cavalier now and they say Cavalier has win the Premier League and stuff like that, Why is it now so much of a conflict of issue? You see what I mean? Wasn't it a conflict of issue those times when winning?
No, he was not the head of the technical committee. Is he the head of the technical? The only two positions higher than him in the JFF is Dennis and the president. No other. He's the third in line. Put it that way. So while Steve, put it this way, I have the time of day for Steve. I have the time. I like his personality, I like his knowledge. I think he's easily the best sports man in the country. Nobody can tell me anything. And I'll say this, and it might sound controversial. Show me a better local coach than Rudolph Speed. Show me one. I have the time of day for this man. I think this man deserves to be the head of the technical committee. I think he deserves to be where he's at. And I think he's better than anybody else in this country when it comes to football. And it's not even close. And that's my opinion. However, I still think if you're the head of a technical committee in a country with the sort of responsibility that he has to be the owner of a football club tied with the responsibility of firing or making suggestion, not firing or firing, suggest who should be fired. I think, and also he has responsibility for player development as the technical person. I just think he's too deep in officialdom at the national level to also be having that situation. So I think it's a conflict of interest. What I think would happen is if he steps back and be a part of Cavalier without being the central person, you could still say technically it's a conflict of interest, but he's not in charge. So how do you cry that? But outside of that, Speed is the brightest football man in the country for me.
Mr. Sorry.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Can I speak?
Yeah, man, go ahead.
Okay. So in terms of the conflict of interest, I remember quite clearly that the same Craig Butler tried to become the president of the JFF in 2017. His son, his adopted son, played for Jamaica, made his debut 2019, which means Craig would have wanted to be the president for 4 years from 2017 onwards, right? But Leon made his debut 2019. Would Craig Butler have resigned from his post as JFF president if Leon Bailey made the team 2019?
Whose question is that?
And wouldn't that be a conflict of interest if he didn't decide to resign? So he was in a position that was quite similar to what Speed is in now. And my take on this whole conflict of interest thing is that almost everybody who ascends to the positions, the highest positions in the JFA, they would have some attachment to some club or some other footballing institutions in Jamaica. And so there will always be conflict of interest. What we need to address is whether or not the gentlemen are carrying out their duties in a fair way. And for me, people with integrity will always try to carry out their responsibilities in a fair way. And that is what we need to assess rather than assessing the person and which club the person is with and all of those things. Those things I think are side issues when it concerns football and the development of football.
Yeah, can I comment, Colin? I totally agree with Owen on this, right? You know, I've sat on many boards, right? And I've also been president at the ICAJ. And one of the things that comes up when it comes to ethical standards, certainly in terms of accountants in Jamaica, is one of the things we've realized in crafting the standard is that Jamaica is a small society, right? And even within the position of auditor and client, you're going to have perceived conflict of interest because of the size of the country. At a board level also, you know, what they teach you about conflicts is that conflicts will always arise. What is important is how you manage the conflict, right? And even some people who are the people I think who should be more afraid of is the people who you don't know they have a conflict and they have a conflict, right? And they don't declare it. From my perspective, working with Rudolph, I would have it no other way. I think, as Wayne says, I think he's the one of maybe the brightest mind in Jamaica when it comes to football. You know, certainly I think the top coach in Jamaica, he got the A license first. The way he has managed his position has been exemplary. And even sometimes I would call him and I'll say, Speed boy, what you think about this player? And he will say to me, Dennis, boy, let me tell you something. I am not getting involved in that conversation because I don't want anyone to accuse me, right, of trying to infer anything about one player over the other, right? And you look at it, you know, this argument about why Speed controls the national team. Speed has one player in the national team who I think deserves to be there. That's Richard King. I think if it was me, I would be picking more persons. He just won the Premier League, right? And he has one player there, and he makes no fuss about it. He said, boy, this is the coach's decision. The other thing to understand is that he is the chair of the technical committee. But the technical committee has a multitude of persons on it. He can't make a decision by himself. The decision is made by the committee. In fact, sometimes I'll go to him and say, boy, what do you think about this technical thing? And you know what he says to me? He says, boy, I have to pass it by the committee first, right? That he does not want to deliberate on it without the committee, and he'll call an emergency committee meeting and deal with it. So, you know, I hear the argument about perceived, but there's so many perceived conflict of interest. And as was said by Owen, Craig has always indicated that he wanted to be technical director or president. Was he going to give up working with Phoenix for that? I don't think so. And that's recent. That just talk about being technical director. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I just think that what we need to do is manage it. And I think the structures that are there in place are adequate to manage it because he's one of about 10 persons on a committee.
Okay, wait.
Conflict of interest can be a bad thing and may not be a bad thing, but it is still conflict of interest. And just to put into context, like Dennis, yeah, I'm just in one thing that Dennis said a while ago. I said it in my thesis. I don't think speed interferes. I don't think he needs to. Yeah, I don't think he does, and I don't think he needs to. However, for Dennis to sit there and say he wins the Premier League, so he only has one player and he doesn't make a fuss of it. That is true. That's factual enough. But there must be context. He has one player in his team right now, that's Cavalier, who can make the national team on merit. There's no other player in his team right now who can make the national team on merit. And the reason why he only has one is because he only has one in the squad that can make it on merit. Not that he has 4 or 5, but they don't pick them. No. Plus, the large core are from overseas. Show me one other Cavalier player that can displace another player in the team. None. So he doesn't have it in there because he's humble and they're fighting against him. No, he only has one player in that who can make the national team on merit, and that's Richard.
Yeah, but Wayne, that's not the context I said it in. I said it in the context that the accusation is that he determines who goes in the team, and I said,
okay.
I said he doesn't make any fuss to justify that accusation.
I get it.
Right?
That's all
I'm saying.
Is it brother of a chartered accountant like yourself, Dennis?
Yes, he is.
All right, so Wayne, I got a question for you on the subject of conflict of interest. What decision speed make that will rebound to Cavaliers in an unfairly positive way? I'm trying to look at a rational, look at a situation that could arise.
He doesn't, as Dennis just said, he does make decisions.
Is there any situation though? Because the conflict of interest is perceived rather than being acted, right?
Yes, it's perceived. It's perceived. And conflict of interest, if you want it perceived, you have a duty to, you see, justice must not only be done enough, it must be manifestly
Seen to be done.
Seen to be done.
Gotcha.
And his words seen there. And I'm saying to you, if there's a perceived conflict of interest, that too must be dealt with. That too must be dealt with. I think we're lucky to have a man like Speed with the sort of position that he has in this country. I talk to Speed all the time and I tell him, I'm laugh. Speed don't even believe in the country. I tell him all the time. I said it to him, I said, Speed, what do you do? That's what me and him talk, because we have leisure conversation. But I seriously and honestly, I even asked him one day, why we go and look for a foreign coach? I said, Speed, when I go to technical, can take this team, you can do well with this. I just think Speed can do well with any football that he gets. That's how I rate him. So I think we're lucky to have him. And I hope that my critics and his team keeps him there. But the whole perceived conflict of interest, I think it's a temporary, maybe ask him to play a secondary, third role in his club. Even though we know, and that's not Speed.
So Wayne, does JFF actually go searching for a foreign coach? Or is a coach?
It what?
Does the JFF actually go searching for a foreign coach or a coach?
It's a very good question, I don't know what's in their mind when they're picking a coach, because they tried with a local coach who happens to be the best local coach we've had in terms of his record. The record will tell you that he has a better win-loss record than anybody else, including Dennis Chung and Whitmore. But he's no longer in charge of the team. And I agree. When he was let go, I agree. There's no way you can have 32 points to play for, and you have 8 points out of the 32 when you're looking for a place in the World Cup. No other coach in the world will be kept with that sort of dismal record. But if you look at the record and the survey, it was the best. And I also don't think Speed fired Papa. Speed just happened to be the head of the technical committee, which recommended, and as Dennis rightly said, they all make recommendations. He just happened to be the head. And they say, uneasy, lays the head that way, the crown. So I don't know if they went for a foreign coach or they went for a coach. What I don't know though is that the one we have now, I at this moment as we speak, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay. May I come in?
That's one question. One question to Dennis. One thing that makes me uncomfortable is looking at the number of all citizens that plays for the national team. And it seems to me like the Well, the JFF approach of strategy is a quick fix thing. We'll look for some players who cannot make it for England, who then decide that the best option of playing for national team is to come or go to another somewhere else. When are we going to cut the dependence on importing players who the grandmother or somebody was Jamaican and start to bring the players from the grass up to the level where they can play for the national team? And we can say Jamaican style is played out there.
Yeah, so let me answer that in two ways. First of all, what I would say is that I don't even concern myself with that. As a coach's decision, what I said to the coach, and as I said to him, I said, listen, you give me a budget and tell me what you want in a budget. We will determine together if it can be afforded, right?
Okay.
At the end of the day, the only thing you're accountable to for me is to win. If I give you what you ask for and you agree with me, then it is your job to win. I am not going to get involved in who you are. If you want to put 10 fairies on it and win, that's fine.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
The other thing though is remember, and this is something that Speed, and this is why Wayne speaks about his prowess in terms of football that he's working on. A very important thing. The talent development scheme. The fact of the matter is that Jamaica, we might have the raw talent, but we don't have the structure until this talent development scheme, because we're pushing through with an academy to develop the talent, right? But the other thing, you know, that you'll see that happen with us with the national stadium, for example, is that we don't have the infrastructure for sports in this country. So we are the #1 in the Caribbean in terms of football, and we could not host international games at nights at our national stadium. We are the #1 in the world with track and field. What infrastructure you see that we have in place to do with track and field, apart from some people who do some private things, right? So the infrastructure is not just about the talent and all that. We have to have the infrastructure. As the coach said recently, he said, listen, if you carry Lionel Messi to Jamaica, in 2 weeks, he's an ordinary player because of the surfaces that we have in Jamaica. So those are things to consider. We have a way to go, but we have to develop our infrastructure. We have to also develop our local leagues and find our winners through the talent development scheme, right? And the last thing I'd say also is that one of the challenges we have, and this is, and I know particularly as it relates to sports like cycling, but football also, we do not, at a young level, have proper nutrition development, right? So we will see like our players in the under-17 and under-20 go play against some guys in Mexico. And you see how tall they are? You know what I mean? How big they look, right? And those are some of the issues we have. So at the end of the day though, you know, we get a coach and, you know, his job is to win. And I won't tell him how to do it. Just win.
Yep.
Mr. Speedy, I wanted to say something.
Oh, yes. The point that was made earlier on that to fix the problem of the perception of this negativity surrounding the conflict of interest, to fix that problem as suggested by Wayne, I just wanted to say something about that, because quite frankly, I don't believe in tokenism. If Mr. Speed, who yes is my brother, if he's going to decide to take a lower seat in the Cavalier setup, I don't think that will affect anything, because as we know it, Mr. Speed is going to always have his interest in ensuring that Cavalier does well and the players are well protected, well taken care of in the same way. What we need to be doing, and as journalists, what journalists need to do is to serve their purpose as well in terms of educating the nation about how the governance structures operate within the JFF. And what things that we know, and it's said, maybe not in entirety, but on this program, that the head of the chairman of the technical committee is not the one who makes the decision all by himself. And the public needs to know these things. If you have 7 people on a committee, I understand how committees work. The chairman only has 1 vote. So these are some of the things that the public, they need to be educated on these things, and that perception of unfairness or whatever they call it, you know, coming from the technical committee chair, that would eventually go away, especially if they see that and the perception would change, and having them believe that there is fairness happening within that structure. So I think the journalists need to play their role. And
the journalists
you know that the people tend to follow what they lead from the journalists in this country.
No.
So that is my whole take on that matter.
No, you can
in terms of development, I think that I believe that development of players have to happen. If we notice, the stats are saying to us that all great players, maybe 9 out of 10, maybe 9.5, because we could say 19 out of 20, of the great players of all time, they start playing for their country at age 17 and those ages. So we have to look at development, and we have to look at a structure that is going to carry through the kids from leaving high school and into a national program setup.
But Colin and Phil, let me, you know, we always ask this question about people playing overseas and being included. How many people on the Brazil team, bro?
But they're Brazilian born. All of them are Brazilian born.
I know that, but Brazil, you know how much people live in Brazil?
Yeah, one.
Compared to Jamaica?
Yeah. But look, but this is a difference now, because Brazil imports them or exports them to Europe, and then they come back to right?
Yeah, but we're talking about 3 million people here with a broke down national stadium, right? And
you ever go about they won the World Cup?
With this African country went to the quarterfinals the other day in World Cup. What Morocco?
Quarterfinal, which is semifinal.
Semifinal, yeah.
Semifinal.
And there are a whole lot of people from overseas also playing. So
all of them were born in France. All the Moroccan team of France was born in France.
Yeah. And therefore, you know, we talk about Jamaica as if Jamaica is unique. And Jamaica is 3 million people. Jamaica has a poor infrastructure. You know, so what we have to do.
I agree with you totally. I want to see. All right, look, when I watch the national team play, no. And I look for the fight in there. I see maybe 2 or 3 players who give me that fight, like a yardman fight. Yeah, and it's maybe some of these players. I don't miss the fighting. They were more.
And remember this also, as the president always said. One of the things that JFF focuses on is also social improvement for the people in the country. And you're not going to stay in Jamaica and make the money that you want to make.
Absolutely.
Right? So a lot of them just, I mean, the best thing for them is to leave and go overseas and make money. Because it's not just about, oh, I'm going to stick with this league, right? You need to make some money.
Mr. Pete, if I could just respond to something that you just said.
Yeah, go ahead.
It is not the journalist's responsibility or role, so, to educate the public. What journalists do is to help to shape opinion, give information, correct information, entertain at times, and be the eyes on the ears of the country. If they happen to educate while doing that, fine. But it's not our role and responsibility to educate anybody. The JFF has contract deals with several media houses. Dennis know them. Why don't they use some of those inches of space that they have in the newspaper, the time allocated to them on the radio and TV that they have contract deal with, and sensitize the nation So some of the stuff like how the technical committee work, and they do it at a time when the national team is not playing, so they don't have to use it for space to advertise a match, but instead use it to sensitize the same people are asking to pay their money to come to do the turnstile to support the team. That's what they should do. The journalist is not here to educate the nation. We have to form opinion.
Mr. Walker,
Yes,
let me just follow up on that. I am not saying that the journalists should take it as their core responsibility to educate the nation. All I am saying is that whenever they get that mic in their hands, they need to show, you know, the mature side of how people should operate and perceive things, and as you said, they help to shape opinions. So all I'm saying is that they need to be responsible, and at the same time, because anything that it's always better to hear from an independent source. The people out there looking on will not listen to the people in the JFF as though they will listen to you and believe you that this is how the thing works, because they are always going to be thinking that the JFF people are saying this to protect themselves.
An indictment of the JFF. That's an indictment. It's an indictment on the JFF.
No, it's an indictment on our people.
Also on the JFF.
Yes, it is an indictment.
Why are you not believable to the same people you're asking to support the program? Why don't come across as believable?
But that is not only in football. It happens in everything. We're
talking about football here now.
Yes, but it happens in church. Yeah. Listen, it happens everywhere in the society. Football is just a little sector of the society, and it happens everywhere. Where if Wayne comes out and start to defend journalists, people are going to take it more from a teacher out there than from Wayne, because
it doesn't mean it's Wayne's role to defend journalists. That's what the role that you said journalists must have.
But I did not say that. I said that whenever they get the mic, remember I clarified that, you know, whenever you get the mic, you can play a role in helping to do that. I'm not saying you should.
The role that we play when we have the microphone, when we have the microphone is to lead by example. So do the right thing so the country follow.
All right. So I am going to be sticking to my opinion on that, and you can stick to yours. But I am saying again that it is everybody's responsibility to educate if you know better, because not everybody out here in the public domain knows better how organizations run.
Well, let's start by making the JFF, the Jamaican Netball Association, the JOA, whomever, start by making them believable to the public. So when they put stuff out there, the public don't have to question it.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things, right, I assess why the JFF, I just wrote about it today, have the issue. Certainly last year, the election would have been bruising, because even some of the persons who were within the organization were trying to tear down the organization with things I know were inaccurate, right? And that thing burned me when I saw it. I mean, that is not something I comment on. Right? But people burn it down. And I can tell you that some of the journalists were very biased. In fact, and I won't call a name, but one journalist told me that he is supporting a certain person over another person. Tell me that. A journalist tell me that.
Nothing is wrong with that. Just don't let it come over in your work, or don't come public with it. Nothing is wrong with it.
It came over in the work. It came over in the work. It came over in the work.
Well, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong.
Of course it's wrong.
Supporting one over another, nothing is wrong with that.
No, nothing is wrong with that, but clear it like how Fox TV do it. Right? Don't act objectively. And I mean, I think that especially in a small society like Jamaica, you don't declare yourself, but don't act objectively and say things and report things. And this is the other thing we speak about. Report things that are inaccurate. You have some journalists reported some inaccurate information because they heard it. I spoke to a journalist today, and he says he knows that some people just, and in his experience, just report things because they hear it. You have some social media journalists out there, boy. I can't tell you. Well, they read something on Facebook, and they're reporting it and they're making a big news thing about it. And I saw a lot of that last year. Can't tell you that. There are certain people that don't have no respect for journalists.
Dennis.
Yeah.
One of the missions that I've been on for a while, and I have made statements which has come back against the JFF, has come back to bite me because I found out I was wrong. Now, one of the missions I was on, and I'm going to follow the JFF part. One mission I was on is to find a website for the JFF. And I kept saying, JFF have no website. And for the longest while, and I was watching IG Live with Bowser. And him say, go on JFF.what? Like, just, that's the match, And this today, I decided to type in JFF.football. I'm on the internet every single day. I have a website for I'm interested. I haven't had the chance to go through it yet in detail, but I was surprised it was actually a real website. Why is it that the public does not know that there's a
no, what you should say is that you didn't know, but I can tell you we have a lot of followers. We have a lot of hits on that site. So there's a lot most of the purchases for Adidas is people go to that site because we have a link to the Adidas store there. And all our tickets, most of our tickets that we sell at the game, which this game at about 2,000 or 3,000 more than average, are sold through the site.
But I mean,
we have our audited financials there, we have our policies there, we have all of those things. When I went there, I actually got it up in late.
So it's not long ago. You've been there 2 years?
Yeah.
You've been there 2 years?
Yeah, not 2 years yet. In late 2022, I got it up.
So now we have like, and I'm going to check it myself, but is there history, like I can go and say this game and who scored, and is that all there?
No, we don't have that yet, but that's been worked on.
Nice.
We have some other policies on it, but it's an ongoing thing, and that is being worked on now to get that.
And I never been.
Yeah.
So Dennis, do you have a PR team?
We have a team, and you'd have seen the last game. One of the things we're proud of, the time of the game changed from 6:30 to 3:30 in a matter of 2 days. And we're actually able to get 2,000 to 3,000 more on average. It was actually a good attendance, for the 3:30 game. And we actually made quite a bit more on that game because of the attendance.
Really?
So, yeah, man, in terms of gate receipts. So, in fact, and we estimate that if we had a 6:30 game, we'd have at least 75% people more because of the number of people canceled and the people expressed interest in it. We actually cut a deal with a company called 876 Stream. They did a fantastic marketing job because we had billboards all over. We had a lot of interviews, social media, all of those things, and they got people out. We got more people coming on, sponsors coming on. If you look there, the amount of banners that were up, we actually created for the first time a VIP section around Royal Box, right? That is going to be a staple going forward. And in that VIP section, we had some influencers, but we had people who actually sold a ticket there for like twice the normal grandstand, because what happened is that we were able to get, we put in their services that like people, waitresses were there serving people while they were watching the game. We had little things in there from sponsors, and that's going to be a feature going forward because the demand for it was high. So we expect that September 6th is going to be good. And in addition to that, we're working on another deal with another company. So we don't have a team that's employed directly internally. We have one person who works with us, but we're working with a firm, and we're looking at another firm for overseas also, which we're trying to secure, and you're going to see that coming out. So we're going to be, in terms of the marketing presence, in another month, you're going to see, and certainly before next game, it's going to be a worldwide presence, but this team has done very well for us in terms of marketing this game. I can tell you that within another match or two, based on the fact that thanks to the minister